Ron Howard. He's the guy everyone pictures as the patient grandfather of movie making, the steady hand who somehow makes chaos feel safe. But here's the twist. The same director who built a reputation on kindness also learned the hard way that professionalism has a breaking point. This isn't about petty feuds. It's about a craftsman protecting a set so that everyone can do their best work. Let me take you through 7 big-name actors who tested that patience and what those run-ins taught him. Andy Griffith. Ron started as a kid on The Andy Griffith Show, wide-eyed and trusting. To viewers, Mayberry was pure warmth. To a growing actor, the man at the center of it all was more complicated. At first, Andy treated young Ron like a partner, but as the show wore on, some on-set tensions crept in. Scripts tightened, tempers flared, and a once fatherly presence could switch off as quickly as he switched on the smile for the camera. Teenaged Ron pressed questions about his character and got resistance instead of mentorship. The fallout was quiet but real. They drifted apart professionally and rarely crossed paths afterward. Lesson: on-screen kindness doesn't always guarantee off-screen generosity, and Ron decided his sets would feel genuine from top to bottom. Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore wasn't the loud, headline-making kind of trouble. He was the kind of unpredictability that eats at a set's rhythm. On a high-stakes thriller, Ron found himself constantly recalibrating because one actor's volatility disrupted everything. Lines of continuity, the emotional tempo between scenes, and the crew's momentum, all of it can unravel when an actor shows up scattered or unreliable. Sometimes the only solution was to stop and reset the day, which is a production nightmare. For Ron, it was a lesson in containment. Protect the workflow, even when it costs you time and patience. Shelley Long. Early in Ron's directing career, he learned that different actors bring different working styles, and those styles can clash. Shelley Long arrived precise, controlled, and exacting. She wanted the setup nailed down. That contrasted sharply with co-stars who thrived on improvisation and spark. What began as artistic friction turned into repeated delays over rewrites and blocking, and Ron had to figure out how to shepherd the film while keeping the energy alive. The experience drilled home something he'd carry forever. Collaboration needs flexibility, and sometimes you must adapt your direction to the temperament of the room without sacrificing momentum. Russell Crowe. Here's a complicated one. Russell Crowe brought fire and a genius-level intensity that produced one of the best performances of his career. But brilliance often arrived hand in hand with challenging behavior, endless debates over motivation, camera choices, and the truth of a moment. Those debates weren't petty. They were philosophical standoffs about craft. Ron's job became less about calling action and more about containing a creative storm so the whole movie could move forward. They made something extraordinary together, but Ron chose not to repeat the partnership. Sometimes, the artistic yield isn't worth the emotional toll. Marlon Brando. Working with a legend sounds like a dream until it isn't. Brando carried cinematic history in his bones, but also eccentric habits that could upend a production. Forgetting lines, vanishing for hours, demanding last-minute rewrites, and treating the set like his personal laboratory. When one performer can halt everyone else's work, it becomes a matter of respect for the crew. Ron learned that even reverence for talent has boundaries. Professionalism matters more than pedigree. The project didn't survive, and the lesson was brutal but clear. No single star gets to hijack a whole production. Henry Winkler. This isn't about personality so much as shifting power. Henry Winkler's character blew up into a cultural juggernaut, and suddenly the show that launched Ron's career felt like it was steering away from him. What started as a shared creative space turned into an environment where script and focus changed to chase a breakout hit. Ron didn't resent the actor personally, but he did feel the sting of losing the center of a story he'd been hired to anchor. That taught him about narratives and control and how popular success can reshape a set's dynamics in ways that aren't always fair to the original vision. Mel Gibson. At the height of his influence, Mel Gibson wasn't shy about weighing in on scripts, camera positions, even catering. On one intense production, his involvement sometimes crossed into co-directing territory. That's a delicate line. Input is welcome, but undermining the director's role throws the balance off. Ron's approach is measured, but when a star's intensity starts dictating creative choices, you either negotiate or you protect your job as the captain of the ship. With Mel, Ron spent as much energy managing collaboration as he did shaping performances. So, what's the takeaway from all these on-set skirmishes? It's not that Ron Howard is perfect, or that these actors were monsters. The story is more nuanced. Great art needs both passion and discipline. Talent without respect for the process can fracture a production, and a director's duty is to prevent that fracture, even if it means walking away from big names or tough conversations. Ron's style didn't harden into a tyrant's rule. Instead, he doubled down on a simple idea. Kindness on set must be real, not performative. He built teams that can trust each other to show up prepared, stay present, and respect the time and talent around them. Because at the end of the day, movies aren't made by single geniuses. They're made by professionals who show up and do the work. What do you think? Were his standards too strict? Or reasonable for protecting a filmmaking family? Drop your take below, and if you liked this deep dive into Hollywood behind the scenes, give this a thumbs up and hit follow for more stories about what really happens when the cameras stop rolling.